Oh, there you are. Assalamu alaikum.
There, I think it worked. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Good job. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened differently, but good to see you. How are you feeling?
Good, alhamdulillah. I feel a little bit better. I don't know, I just got hit so bad last night, but alhamdulillah. Hopefully I don't look too disheveled and hopefully my brain functions properly. But yeah,
Did you take your
alhamdulillah.
iron syrup today?
Actually, I did not yet this morning, but I took it yesterday and I was telling myself I need to be on it. I'm always telling myself, it's so important. You need to be on it yourself too. Sometimes it's easier to share with other people than it is to actually focus on what you need to do yourself. Yeah.
Duly noted. Yeah, so true. So I've already shared that you're the founder and herbalist behind Ummul Herbal's Postpartum Apothecary, and that you'll be sharing a little bit about your personal experience with iron depletion and how this has become such a staple in your medicine cabinet and for so many other women too. So you want to go ahead and share?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I guess I could just start with my own experience. So the thing that's interesting is that I actually never really show up on paper as like anemic or that I have like low iron or iron deficiency. Um, but I do experience the symptoms. And when I take the iron syrup, I notice a huge difference. So there must be something going on there. And as I learn more, actually, it's interesting because I'm learning that there are some doctors who request like it depends on how you request the blood test to be done, which is really interesting. Sometimes it's just that they're checking on how the blood count that you have, but then there are deeper tests that you can do that actually help to tell if you're experiencing something that's causing iron deficiency, or if your body isn't really absorbing it properly, for example. So I think, especially if we're not really working from a holistic perspective, it could kind of be like, well, I'm not anemic, or I don't have iron deficiency, but that we're experiencing the symptoms sometimes, and that could be that there's something actually going on. So thankfully, I actually came across a woman who was making iron syrup in Madison, Wisconsin, and I share her Instagram here and there too. But it's Two Mothers Apothecary, and she's so awesome, mashallah. But she was making the iron syrup and I started taking it and I felt amazing. And I think around then was when I was newly pregnant with my second baby. And those days I was so tired. The way that I found out I was pregnant actually was that I just couldn't move. I basically could not get up because I was so fatigued. And I had another child to take care of, so I was just like, what is going on? I've never felt exhaustion so deep before. Normally I'm very like I can get myself to do things, like especially mentally, but I couldn't move my body. So I started taking that and I benefited so much. It was like night and day. And I didn't actually correlate it very much at the time, but then I ran out of the syrup, and I was talking to my midwife. I'm like, I'm just so drained again. And she's like, well, you said that you ran out of the syrup. Maybe you need to be taking that, even though it's not really showing that you're like necessarily low on paper through the testing. So yeah, I tried to be regular with that, took that throughout the pregnancy and postpartum. And I think around that time somewhere, Jessica stopped making the syrup. And so I was like desperately in need of it still, because I was really noticing that fatigue that comes up. And for me too, it's like it's exhaustion, but I also get like my vision gets a little bit weird. I get like black spots in my vision. All of it's like it all goes away when I'm taking the syrup, and when I'm not taking it, it comes back basically, especially during those like postpartum and nursing years. And so yeah, I was like, okay, well, what should I do? I think it was like I don't know. There was I'm not sure exactly the reason why she stopped making it, but I was like, okay, I need it. I have to figure out how to make it myself. So I started looking into the different types of recipes, the traditional Chinese medicine approach to blood tonics and things like that, and then I created my own recipe. And I was making it for myself for quite some time, and then I started making it for women locally once I moved to St. Louis, Missouri. And I was surprised. Like I thought I was just making I would just make like 2 bottles or something, and I made quite a few. And I met women at the local masjid, and I gave it to them. They came and picked it up, and people responded really well, that they really enjoyed it and that it was helping them a lot. So so I started sharing about it a bit on my Instagram, and then I started offering it like through shipping, and it's been great, and I'm so grateful because I feel like when we use something so natural, our bodies respond, and because it's just something that our bodies are familiar with. Um,
Mm.
and we can go into kind of like some of the other supplement options for iron and stuff like that, but yeah, for me, the biggest thing is that our bodies respond because it's something that's natural and it's something that's easy to absorb. But yeah, subhanAllah, it's amazing to like, I believe in this stuff, but it's amazing when I hear the stories of women saying just like how their life has changed so much by this like one simple thing.
Yeah. And it's, for some women, this has become so much a part of their life. It's like their identity. I remember seeing memes about, oh, data at like a low iron girly or an anemic girly because she's too weak to do much, or, like
Yeah.
she's always like tired, or, that's it's kind of like it's so real in people's lives that they've just kind of accepted it, that this is just part
Mhm.
of my life and how I live. And so I have to really name how much I benefited from a podcast that Goodis hosted of the
Mhm.
Womb Room. She hosted Lauren of Innate Nutrition. I think it's Innate Fertility now. But they had a really powerful conversation about really understanding what's at the root of iron deficiency, because
Mhm.
our nutritional need for iron is not very high. And as women, we absorb iron very well, and they've been fortifying, at least for Americans, our foods have been fortified with iron shavings for decades, which is nasty. But like there's no shortage of iron, right? It's an abundant mineral, etc. So why is it so common? And so obviously on one side you could look at, well, what's the cause of this low
Mhm.
iron? Because just by definition, it's low iron in the blood. So
Mhm.
you can look at what's at the root of it, um, but then also realizing that the body will store iron in our tissues if that feels like the best place for it to be. If there's not enough capacity to actually absorb the iron that's in our
Mhm.
blood, then our body will just kind of usher it into our tissues. And
Mhm.
so in their podcast, they talked about kind of general iron deficiency is just by definition not enough iron in the blood. But then there's also inflammation related iron deficiency. So when we're sick, our iron levels temporarily drop because iron feeds pathogens. So
Mhm.
viruses and bacteria and parasites can thrive off of iron. So sometimes when we're ill, our iron will take a dip, or if we just have a lot of inflammation in our body, our iron will take a dip. And then there's pernicious anemia, where there's like actually a B12 deficiency that's
Mhm.
preventing us from really absorbing the iron. And so in their conversation, they were saying more times than not, it's not that we need to ingest more iron. It's just the
Mhm.
body is not absorbing the iron that we are ingesting, and that we are not eating the other cofactors that are really needed, like copper and
Mhm.
retinol and whole vitamin C, not synthetic vitamin C, to
Mhm.
really get that iron moving in our bodies and really
Mhm.
useful so we can get that energy. And so, especially when you see that women just have like a lifetime of taking iron pills or have to get iron transfusions regularly, but still don't really recover. It's like, okay, well, where's the iron going? Like you're taking all of this iron, where is it going? And so I think that's why the source of the iron is so important. And like you said, when you're getting iron from these whole food sources, there's a recognition that the body's like, oh, yeah, I recognize this. And then in nature, we tend to see the cofactors of iron present to help with that absorption. So,
Mhm.
I think that really speaks to what you're experiencing. Like, even if you don't on paper show iron, there's something that nutritionally or mineral wise,
Mhm.
that's really helping usher that iron into the blood and get that oxygen circulating. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
and I think for so many women, you have so many testimonials and reviews that it's really profound to think of people who've been getting medical care for iron deficiency for so long, and they're finding more success with your homemade herbal iron syrup than transfusions and, supplements. And so, yeah, how
Mhm.
does that feel for you?
Yeah, yeah. I think as you're speaking, one thing that keeps coming to mind too is like in a lot of holistic medicine paths or traditions, digestion is such a huge element. And I think because we're struggling a lot with digestive issues, um, and like the microbiome, all these different things, like that's a big topic lately. And yeah, it kind of needs to be because we're eating a lot of foods, especially when it comes to like breads and stuff like that. Pretty much all of that, even if you go to like someplace like Whole Foods where you would think it's quality, pretty much all of that is enriched flours. And so like that's just one element even, of things that are causing difficulty in our digestive system. And so I think a lot of us are dealing with like absorption issues because our digestive system is not working optimally. And in Ayurveda, one of the main like foundational aspects of health is the strength of your like your ability to assimilate food and experiences too, because there's that element. But yeah, I think we need something that's a bit more holistic, and that's what I like about using herbs is because you could have different herbs that work together really well to support the digestive system and to provide vitamin C. And it's more of like it's a wholesome approach rather than something that's just synthetic and made in a lab that's not really going to support our digestive system or our ability to assimilate. Um, but yeah, I think paying attention to these underlying factors is so important because, like you said, we can really get even with taking herbs. Honestly, we can get into a pattern of just being like, I have to take this thing all the time, and I depend on this or that, and we want to get to a deeper level of healing. And as women, we are losing blood on a regular basis. So I do love that women can take the iron syrup on a regular basis to replenish themselves. But if there's an actual deficiency that's been like an ongoing issue, um, outside of like maybe like if the menstrual cycle is fine and it's not necessarily that you're bleeding extra or something like that, um but you're still dealing with some type of like really deep deficiency. We want to look deeper, and we want to make sure that we're addressing these things from a holistic perspective where we're addressing the root cause rather than just kind of like here take this, because we can get into that habit with my iron syrup too. you know but yeah, so my hope is that people can get curious about why is this happening for me. And for some people it will just be, that they're nursing or that they're pregnant or they just gave birth and they need replenishment. But for others, they may need replenishment while searching for the root cause of why they're dealing with this regularly.
Yeah, for sure. Because if there are underlying issues going on, there's going to be this like constant depletion that's happening. And so, yes, in the comments that synthetic iron is trash and, people not taking bioavailable iron, so the uptake not being great, the types of iron and your ability to convert those types of iron. So that's really important as well. And I think something that I see a lot, one is the normalization of heavy bleeding. Like inevitably, there's going to be some kind of deficiency when you just normalize like bleeding for 2 weeks every month or having these really long, heavy periods or wearing overnight pads. And because we don't get a lot of education always about what is a healthy, optimal period and what's not, we just assume that that's just me. I'm a heavy bleeding girly. Like that's another thing that people turn into an identity as well. And so I think that's one thing that I see at least is that this normalization, like decades of I'm just a heavy bleeder and just getting accustomed to life using overnight pads when they're menstruating all day long, not being able to leave the house, etc. So that's one issue that I tend to see a lot. And the other one is just women not eating, period, let alone the quality of food, like we're not, kind of skipping meals, not eating well, not eating wholesome foods, having crazy digestive issues and not really seeing it as an issue. And all of that really does compound even before you get into the choices of supplementation. So what are some of the types of iron supplementation that you've tried over the years, other than the iron? Did you try iron pills before the iron syrup? Did you try
Yeah,
anything else?
yeah, I did. But could I ask you to mention one thing before we go into
Yes.
that? I think it would be really helpful for people to understand what a heavy period looks like.
Mm,
Like that, because I think for some people, like you're saying, they'll be like, oh, or they might not even say I bleed heavy because they don't think that that's considered heavy.
yeah.
So is there a way that we can kind of explain like what that would look like if somebody is considered a heavy bleeder?
Yeah, I think telltale signs of being a heavy bleeder is that you're combining period products. So having to use both tampons and pads to manage heavy bleeding, you're flooding through, soaking through clothes, your sheets, etc. You have to wake yourself up in the middle of the night to change products for fear of soiling. I would say if you're changing your pad, and this is just a regular pad, not necessarily. If you have to depend on overnight pads throughout the day and you're changing them every 1 to 2 hours, that's definitely considered heavy bleeding. So, what's considered a medium bleed is changing your pad once every 4 hours. And then if you're changing more frequently than that, that's considered heavy bleeding. There's actual measurements of the actual blood volume, but most women are not measuring how much blood they're using. And then also, we would look at a menstrual flow that's not lasting longer than 4 days. And this is the actual flow. This doesn't include spotting that may start or end your flow. And so, those are some of the ways that I like to explain heavy bleeding, and someone's commenting, caffeine plays a huge part too, right? So someone I'm working with who bleeds very heavily just has coffee for breakfast. And what do we know about coffee? That, it has caffeine and it's a diuretic. And so you can be raising your stress levels, which depletes certain hormones, but then also you're just urinating your minerals, without actually having some substance in your system. And so we've just kind of adopted a lot of really stress driven habits where we're skipping breakfast, we don't really sit well for meals, or we're trying to um, eat quick grab and go things like bars or protein shakes, and not really sitting for proper meals anymore, or relying on caffeine and sugar for energy to get through the day. So those are, so what are some other natural ways for me to increase in iron? So if you're just joining the chat, we were just talking about that there are other factors that tend to contribute to iron deficiency, particularly if one is low in copper, um, or there's not enough dietary retinol in the in your intake, whole forms of vitamin C. We just can't isolate iron, and that tends to happen in Western medicine, this isolation. Like, oh, this one thing is low, so we're going to just put in more of it. But looking at the bigger picture, it's like, what needs to happen for what you eat to actually be assimilated? How do you eat? Like, do you eat with any kind of presence? Is it rushed eating? Do you have digestive issues after you eat? Do you eat in stressed circumstances and environments? We have to look at what you're eating, and if you're eating enough, what you're digesting and taking in is just such a critical part of it. So it's not just find more iron. More than likely, there's enough iron around you. It's really about how to benefit from what you're eating. So looking at your digestion, maybe having some mineral analyses to find out if there are minerals that you're really low in, and working with someone who can look at you more holistically than take some more synthetic iron pills. So do you want to talk about some of the sources of iron that you found to be really impactful in your experience of cultivating your recipe, the types of ways that people can bring in more iron into their diet?
Yeah, yeah. So in my process of just trying to learn more about well, in creating the recipe for the iron syrup was one thing, but also learning about how the body can assimilate better when we use more of like a whole foods kind of approach. Um, but in I guess in that process, I started looking into some of the options that were in stores, and the majority of the things that I was looking at were things that are in like natural food stores or in more of like the holistic aisle or the natural aisle of these stores. And I was kind of surprised to see what was in the ingredients list, to be honest. Um, like some of the like even just like natural flavors, for example, or some of the preservatives that was used in there, and yeah, I was just looking at the different options, and I was like, for me, that's those they're not really options because they include these things that I feel like are either synthetic or are not necessarily even healthy for someone to be consuming. So why is it
Mhm.
in a supplement? You know, something that you're going to try to that you're using to try to support your body better. You know, um, so yeah, I was just really surprised by that, and that kind of made me feel even more confident in going through the route of like creating my own recipe for this iron syrup, because I was like, yeah, I don't really want to spend money on something that has this random stuff in it, and I'd rather make something that's just natural. So I started studying the different herbs that could be used. I started looking at some of the different recipes, like I mentioned earlier, like how traditional Chinese medicine has like traditional blood tonic recipes, stuff like that. And then I just kind of put something together that I felt was wholesome. So, for example, having vitamin C in there is really important. So I use rose hip for that, and yeah, just trying to make it as like well-rounded as possible. And then I also knew that blackstrap molasses was something that was really helpful in uh, in supporting iron. So I wanted to include that. My challenge, though, in that whole thing was that I preferred for it to be a syrup that did not include alcohol in it. And so it's been quite a journey trying to figure out how to make something that is shelf stable or at least stable enough, and then put in the refrigerator to be stabilized, that doesn't include alcohol in it. And yeah, so that's kind of been like an interesting thing. But one of the main things that I noticed for especially other women, because I mean, I tried a couple of things, but I wasn't really consistent with it, and mainly because I wasn't confident in what the ingredients, like in the ingredients, what was in it basically. But what I hear from a lot of other women is that they're dealing with constipation almost right away when they take these other supplement options. Um, Especially the ones that are like super synthetic, like the ones that are normally recommended to people to take, sadly. And that makes things even more worse, right? And if we're talking about the digestive system as a form of assimilating the nutrients of the foods that we're eating, but then we're like slowing that down and creating constipation. What is that doing for us, really? And is that keeping us in a cycle of just like needing more things? Because now you're dealing with constipation. So, okay, I have to take blah, blah, blah to help me with the constipation, or, all these different things. It's like, how do we move away from synthetic supplements, foods, lifestyle, all this stuff so that things can flow easier? And that's what I see, I think, with the iron syrup. Like, I really feel like because all of this is so natural, it was designed for us by our creator who knows us, right? Like, and the body recognizes that. The wisdom of the body recognizes this thing is natural. I can judge this thing. I can feel revitalized, rather than I'm sluggish, I'm constipated, I'm weighed down, and now I need more things to help me with this constipation, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, that's what I see a lot in a lot of different areas, not only with iron things, but even with like the menstrual cycle and issues and challenges that come up with that, where not especially in the Western medical system, we're not really taking an approach that considers wholeness of the person and considers nature and how significant it is to really like pair up with that and to receive the support from that, because it's there for a reason. God created it for a reason. God gave us these beautiful, amazing plants for a reason.
Mm.
And yeah, I think that that's
A couple of things that I often will recommend to my clients who are struggling with iron. One was recommended to me in one of my pregnancies by my midwife, which was a liquid chlorophyll. And that was something that, she took she had a lot of confidence in it being able to bring up hemoglobin levels really quickly. And, there's copper as well as iron in chlorophyll. So again, you have that like minerals working together for the iron absorption. As was mentioned, nettle infusions, I often will recommend that people have nettle infusions as well. Obviously, organ meat is a big source of iron for folks, particularly liver. Um, in the podcast that I was referencing, they said that three men won some kind of award. It's similar to the Nobel Peace Prize, and basically it was for curing anemia with beef liver. And it's like, it just really speaks to, again, the mineral density and the retinol, like all of the things that you can get from liver. So um, they were acknowledged, or for recognizing that as a cure for anemia. So nettle infusions comes up a lot as well. Those are yeah. And then, just kind of herbal infusions in general. So no,
Yeah,
there's not a,
nettle is a really big one, and I believe that nettle is really great. Like I worked with somebody one time who had really heavy periods that lasted a very long time, ever since she was like a young girl, and we worked with nettle, and that was something that was really really helpful for her. But yeah, I think like even like including it in like soups and stews, stuff like that.
mhm.
But for some people, they need like a bit more support,
Yes.
and I think like including like the beef liver and as many different things as possible can be really helpful. But I think yeah, I think we also need easy ways to include these things, because especially these days, I feel like it's a bit more rare to eat like a liver, you know? So, so
Yeah.
yeah, like I think when it's in like a pill form or things like that, that can be helpful. But yeah, I those are pretty much the things that I've heard of as well. Floridex is another one that I've heard of people using
Yes.
too.
Yes.
And that has some like it has some good ingredients. I think it actually has nettle in it as well. It also has like some juice concentrates in it. But but yeah, I mean, I think my mom used that when I was younger, and but it just kind of seemed like it was something she would take regularly, and didn't, I don't think really like I don't think she saw very much of like a wow, this is making a big change for me.
Yeah.
Although
Mm.
that is a more natural option compared to some of the other things that's out there.
Yeah, yeah, that one's recommended a lot, Floridix as well. In
Mhm.
terms of a brand of liquid chlorophyll, the one that I used to get was just chloroxygen because it was alcohol free. But again, you gotta kind of there's definitely room for some trial and error, figuring out what's building the blood and what's at the root of what's depleting as
Mhm.
well. But nettle is usually recommended in pregnancy because Nora tea is one that's recommended in pregnancy. So that's a combination of nettle, old straw, red raspberry leaf, and alfalfa.
Mhm.
So I don't know of any contraindication there, but we'll wrap up and just share a little bit. So the people who have the blessing of being in your vicinity, or at least within the range with which within which you ship, can order their iron herbal syrup, your herbal iron syrup. You have almost 200 five-star reviews, and so people can even read for themselves how it's benefited other users. But also what's very exciting is that you'll be doing a tutorial about how you make your herbal iron syrup in the Honored Womb Circle. So the Honored Womb Circle is our membership community where we have monthly gatherings to learn new skills, explore new topics, get coaching. And so this year we're adding a new feature called Womb Studio where we'll be learning like a hands-on skill together. And yours will be our first Womb Studio experience. So we're going to find out how to make our own herbal iron syrup, which is such a great resource. One person said they had shipping issues, and so knowing how to source the ingredients and prepare iron herbal syrup for yourself and your family. And postpartum mamas who are iron deficient in your circle is going to be such a great gift. So that's tentatively scheduled for March, I believe.
Mhm.
So if you have any questions about the Honored Womb Circle, you can send me a DM me Womb Keeper, and I'll send you the link. And anything else you'd like to share about what you're up to with your postpartum apothecary, what else we can expect, or how else can people access your iron syrup until they learn how to make it themselves in our membership?
Yeah. So I'm really excited because I've been selling it mainly on Etsy for a very long time. And I'm excited because inshallah I'll be launching my own website soon. And that's been like something that's in progress for a while in the background. But this is the first time I'm actually announcing officially that we're going to have the next restock on the 19th. So that's not tomorrow, but the following Friday. And I do ship worldwide, but it just kind of depends on like your address and things like that. But yeah, so you can look forward to that. And I'm really excited as well because in the process of creating the website, we did a bit of a rebrand. And I feel really good about that. I always laugh, Chantal, because I remember you telling me like when I wanted to kind of get back into doing stuff after my maternity leave, you're like, just make it simple. You don't have to worry about adding flowers in the packaging and stuff like that. But I can't help myself. I just can't. I just love a nice branding, a nice package. So I'm excited because some of that is coming together. And I actually have what the new branding looks like. Can I share it here for the first time?
Yes, please
Okay.
do.
Okay, so this is what the bottle looked like before, and
Mm-hmm.
then this is what the new branding looks like.
Ooh, look at you.
Yeah,
MashaAllah.
so I really love the color combo and I love how it goes along with the website. Alhamdulillah, it's coming together. So I'm excited about that. So we'll have the new branded bottles in this next restock, and the next restock will be on my website for the first time instead of on Etsy. So
Awesome.
I'm excited about that. And yeah, alhamdulillah, I appreciate being able to share about it for the first time here with you.
Yay. Awesome.
Alhamdulillah.
That's amazing. And I think you just bring I've always called you my steaming muse because you always just make things look so beautiful. I would be like, how do I make these herbs look beautiful or this stool? And like I would, or even
Thank
steaming, like how to communicate
you.
the like steaming and how to show it. And you've always just really had such a great eye for beauty and attention to detail and putting your little dried flower buds and your hemp rope and everything just has such a touch. And I think that, mashallah, Allah reward you for that commitment to ihsan and really not taking this credit like, yeah, this is me and my product, but really just reminding us that this is Allah's generosity, and it's just by Allah's generosity that we're able to use these hands He gave us to fashion something of benefit by His grace. So, alhamdulillah. So, yeah, Sabrina's is Sabrina Ummul. This will be recorded. In terms of the recording, I don't know if you meant the recording of the workshop, like the tutorial to make iron herbal syrup that will be in our membership. But if you mean the recording of this live, yes, we'll keep it. And Etsy, she's not on Etsy anymore. What's your website, the new website? You want to put it in the chat?
So we haven't launched it quite yet. So
Okay.
inshallah I'll be sharing it this coming week. But I'm not seeing any of these questions, so I'm really sorry.
It's okay.
But
Yeah,
but
the
yeah.
workshop will be recorded and saved in I will just, so this is your page here. It's okay, I got you. So you can follow Sabrina's page. So when she launches the website, you'll see it. Yes, the tutorial will be recorded and it will live inside of our membership for our members. And for this entire month of December, the membership is discounted. It's 50% off. So this is a great time to join. And we have a couple of bonuses as well. So yeah, hopefully you'll hear more about that. And we have some other chat series coming up. So thank you all for connecting. And yeah, if I missed any questions, someone asked about general good advice for womb health. And so I put a link to something I developed called a womb health checklist. So it's just a couple of key features of your menstrual cycle that you should be tracking and noticing to see how fertile and healthy your menstrual cycle is presenting, and some resources if it's seeming a little bit off in some of the areas. So thank you for your time, Sabrina.
Oh,
Always a
thank
joy.
you so much. It was to chat, and I hope it's beneficial
I
to
mean,
people. I think even just hearing about other people's experiences sometimes can be helpful in our journeys.
for sure. Is this your first live since you've been off of, since
Yeah,
maternity leave?
basically. Yep, yep. Yep, I
Welcome
went
back
on
to
that
the
very long maternity leave.
welcome back to the wild internet, the wild world of social media. Well,
Thank you.
always a
I'm happy to
pleasure.
have done it with you. Alhamdulillah, it's been
I'm
great.
doing that. Good, good. Well, thank you all for being here. Please follow Sabrina.Ummul so you will be updated with everything that's coming forth with her postpartum apothecary. And feel free to DM me, Wombkeeper, if you'd like to join the membership so that you can attend the live tutorial in the spring. All right, thank you all for being here. Allah bless you, and let's stay in touch. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.